Today I'm going to go over what balance changes I think Brawl Stars needs, what buffs need to happen, what nerfs, and what brawlers need just complete reworks. Let's get into it. Alright, it's been a while since any sort of balance changes in Brawl Stars, at least it feels like it. So I want to go over what balance changes I think should happen. But let me know what brawlers you think need buffs, nerfs, or whatever balance changes you want to see. Now I want to start out with the reworks, then we'll go over the buffs I think needed, and then the nerfs as well. Let's start out with what I think is one of the bigger changes I want to see happen to Bo. I think Bo needs a lot of changes. Right now, Bo is like such an enigma. He has this insanely strong star power that makes him really strong on very particular maps, but otherwise he's pretty weak. So he's a hard brawler to buff because if you buff him, he just becomes insanely overpowered on those very particular maps. So what I think needs to happen for Bo as a rework, I think you gotta nerf his star power so you can buff him in other ways. I think you nerf the range of his star power. In my case, I'm gonna say maybe right now, with his current star power, he can see 6 tiles in the bush. I'm saying make it 5.5. Still very usable, still very useful on those particular maps, but not quite as much. That way you can buff him in other ways. Like, his attack right now is honestly one of the worst attacks in the game, in my opinion. Very hard to consistently hit. If you know how to dodge a bow, you can consistently dodge a bow really easily. I think you gotta increase the speed of his attack projectile. In my case, I'm saying by like 10%. He really needs a big buff in that case. It also changes depending on what way you're strafing. If you're moving left, if you're moving right, his attack acts differently. So I really think it needs that extra attack projectile speed. It's easier to get those hits with Bo, so you can increase his damage and just make it a more consistent shot, make it harder to dodge. I also might even give Bo a damage buff as well, especially since I'm giving him a nerf to his star power. I'd probably also give like a 5%, just a small buff to his attack damage to make him even a little bit more reliant on his damage and less so on his star power. Another brawler I think needs a complete rework is Penny. I actually really like Penny and her cannon, but I hate her star power. Her star power to me is the worst one in the game, and it just makes no sense. Penny has a cannon range of 12 tiles, the longest in the game, but her cannon is only useful, or her star power is only useful when someone is next to her cannon when it dies, which just is not a sensical thing. So I think her star power needs to be completely reworked. Now, I didn't honestly feel like I came up with an amazing rework, so I want to hear what reworks you think Penny should get, because I definitely think there are some better ideas out there. I came up with one that I thought was maybe a little bit interesting, sort of like Nita's, where Nita's star powers, whenever her bear gets a hit, it heals Nita, but also the other way around. In my case, I'm thinking whenever Penny's cannon gets a hit, it heals her cannon. It heals itself, so it's sort of like, also too, it's like Penny's a pirate, it can be stealing health, you could do that sort of thing. That sort of theme, sort of. But that way you can maybe play a little bit more aggressive turrets as well. And instead of something that's just like constantly away from people, now you can maybe try and play it a little bit more aggressive. Maybe it's also easier to die, but at the same time, her star power could keep it alive, potentially, if it gets that hit. Or if you're able to dodge it really well, maybe that aggressive turn won't work out. But I think that could be a good rework to at least just make it a little bit more interesting and maybe at least more useful. All right, now there are a couple buffs I want to go over as well. Let's start out with a brawler, Mortis. I think Mortis definitely needs a buff, but you have to be really careful about how you buff Mortis because he's already like one of the best brawlers in Brawl, especially if you don't have much lag. Mortis is a really good option in Brawl, so you have to be careful not to make him faster. I don't really think you can increase his reload speed for the same reason, because if you do increase his reload speed, he becomes even stronger in Brawl, and he's already one of the best brawlers there. So I think what you need to do is increase his damage. I think I would give his damage a 10% increase, make him a little bit more viable versus some high health brawlers, make him a little bit better at attacking. I think that's what Mortis needs. He needs to be better at attacking other people, and I think that's where you got to go with a damage increase. I don't think I would give him a health increase. He already has a lot of health, and he has a star power that gives him even more health, especially later in the game. So I really think you gotta go with a damage buff for Mortis. I wouldn't increase his move speed, I wouldn't change his reload speed, and I wouldn't change his health, so I would go with damage. Another brawler I think needs a buff is Piper. I think there's 2 buffs you could give to Piper. I'd only give one of them. Well, first off, I wouldn't increase Piper's damage, already really, really good. You can maybe increase her damage at minimum range. Like Piper doesn't do much damage at close range. You could maybe increase that a little bit. I think that would be fine. I wouldn't increase her max damage though at long range. I think that's good. I think that's fine, especially with her star power. You could increase her health. I think that's a fine option with Piper. She's definitely really low health, obviously tied for the lowest health in the game, so you could arguably give her a small health increase, but I would increase her super, because I think this could be something that would make her better in other game modes. Increasing her super isn't going to make her that much better in Bounty, a game mode that's dominated by long-range brawlers, but it could make her better in other game modes where she's not as useful, and there's also usually more close-range brawlers. You could buff the damage of her super. I think that could be a really good thing, maybe about like 10 to 15%, because honestly, her super doesn't get many hits. Also, too, with the last update, we saw Supercell took away a lot of the randomness in the game from Penny's cannon and from the spawns in Brawl Ball, so it seems like they want to get rid of random things. So what about Piper's So what about Piper's super? It's currently random grenades. You never know if you're gonna get a hit or not. You never also know as someone attacking a Piper whether you're gonna hit or not. So maybe you make those no longer be random. That way you can be more calculated when and where you are supering and trying to get, like, actually get hits and know you're gonna get a hit when you use her supers, as opposed to just being completely random. You either get no hits, you can get one hit, you might even be super lucky and get 3 hits, or on the other side, you could be super unlucky as the person attacking the Piper, and you never know what's gonna happen. So make it not random. Also, I think it should be a damage increase for her super. Another brawler I think needs a buff is Crow. Crow feels pretty weak to me right now, except in Heist. He's definitely pretty good in Heist, but he's not insanely strong there. He's definitely good though. So I think he deserves a buff, especially since he doesn't feel very strong anywhere else. Like, he feels pretty weak. He's definitely really low health. So I would give him 2 buffs actually. I would give him a small health increase, like 5%. Get him somewhere around like 3,500 health at max. Right now in max is at like 3,360. I'd give him somewhere over like 3,500. Just give him a small health buff. And I'd also give a buff to his daggers, but only the damage he does when he hits someone with a dagger, not the poison. And I'm also not giving it to the daggers he does from his super. I just want to do it to his normal attack, because his super daggers can deal a ton of damage because he fires so many. So you could definitely, like, I don't think he needs a buff there, but I would give him a buff for his normal daggers, because I don't feel like he does that much damage. He honestly feels like not very threatening of a brawler. When he jumps, he can definitely be threatening, and his poison is annoying, but that's basically it. I think he needs a little bit more damage whenever his daggers hits, just like a 5% buff. I think those two combined would make Crow definitely more well balanced and usable in other game modes. I'd also like to see a buff to Ricochet. Ricochet doesn't feel that bad right now, but he also doesn't feel that good. He feels a little bit weak. I would give him just a small buff. I'd give him like a 5% health increase. I wouldn't really want to increase his damage because he already has pretty good damage in a lot of different situations. I wouldn't really want to increase his range, although you could maybe argue for it. I think you would go with either a small real speed buff, but I would really prefer a health buff, just a small one though. Similar to Crow, get him a little bit over 3,500. I just think a small health buff would be really good for Ricochet. Now I got 4 nerfs for you as well, and let's start out with my cactus buddy, Mr. Spike. I think Spike is really good. I mean, he's the most versatile brawler in the game, in my opinion. He's good in pretty much every single game mode, and he's probably very good in every single game mode. So I think he deserves a nerf. And I know for global players, he hasn't been good for very long, but for beta players, he's been very good for a long time. So I think he definitely deserves a nerf. Something to make him a little bit less versatile. He's still gonna be really versatile. So I think there's 2 things you could do with Spike. One of them is just a straight up damage nerf, and I think that makes sense. He does a ton of damage whenever he gets a direct hit, and he can do it really quickly with multiple hits. So I maybe would give him like an 8% damage nerf. He would still be a very viable brawler, but he would probably no longer be like super strong everywhere, but he would definitely still be good. The other thing you could do, I think, is change the size of his super. And this is an interesting nerf for me to him because it changes 2 interactions with Spike. One, of course, just a straight up nerf to his super makes his super worse, but it also makes his star power a little bit worse as well. So I think this could be a good nerf for Spike. Just decrease the size of his super by maybe like 10%, just a small nerf. Still gonna be useful, still dealing as much damage, but it's gonna be a little bit harder for him to use his star power and catch someone in his super at the same time. I think it just would be an interesting nerf for Spike as opposed to just a straight up damage nerf or just a real nerf or health or whatever. I think this could be an interesting way to nerf Spike and make him, maybe this would make him a little bit less versatile in every single game mode. Another brawler I think needs a nerf is Pam. Pam is so strong right now. She's the best gem carrier in Gem Grab by far, and she's being used in a lot of other game modes as well. She's even being used in Heist, which as a turret user is not very common in a game mode where you move up and down the map so much. Pam is so good even without her turret. I think she definitely needs some nerfs. So I'm not giving any nerfs to her turret. I'm going to give nerfs to her health and her damage. I'm giving both of them nerfs, but both of them small nerfs. I think she needs like a 3 to 5% nerf in both her health and her attack damage. I think both those things need some sort of nerf. I just feel like she wins battles versus every other gem carrier way too easily and way too often, and she's good versus a lot of other brawlers on like side lanes as well. She can win so many fights. I think she deserves some sort of nerf, and I think it should be her health and her damage. I also would give Tara a nerf. Now I don't think Tara is like overpowered. I definitely think Tara is one of the best brawlers in the game. Definitely in the top 10, arguably maybe in the top 5, so I do think she could deserve a nerf, but partly just because I want to see different brawlers be really good. And I think Tara's been good for a long time for us beta players. For global, not so much, but she's still a really strong brawler, and I think I would give a nerf to her super. I'm just going to decrease the range of her super as far as how far out you can use it. I'm not going to decrease how wide her super is, but I think I would decrease how like far out you can use her super. I think her super deserves some sort of nerf. I wouldn't change her damage or reload speed or her health. I think those are both at pretty good levels, or all those are at pretty good levels. But her super, I would give it a 10% reduction in her range, maybe even like 15%. Something definitely a big nerf to her super, but still gonna be able to get kills really easily. And this is only gonna be like the really far out supers, which also makes it probably less likely to pull in as many people as well, since you're not gonna be able to do those really far out supers, which is where you're often able to get multiple people. I think this could be a good nerf for Tara though, just make her a little bit worse, but still really viable in other ways. And the last nerf, of course, has gotta be Leon. Leon is insanely strong, the best brawler in the game by far. It feels like he's just so overpowered. He's very hard to deal with, and it's just kind of insane too. Like, Leon can completely outdamage and destroy tanks and like other shotgun brawlers, especially if they're not in the grass. It just doesn't make sense to me. He's way too strong at close range. I think he needs a big damage nerf. I would give him a 10% damage nerf, but just to his max damage, not to his minimum damage. I think his minimum damage is fine, like that doesn't really matter. He doesn't do much damage at long range, but at close range, it's way too much. Like, he shouldn't be doing way more damage than a Shelly shot. Like, that doesn't make sense. He does 2,800 damage at max range. Shelly does 2,100. It just doesn't make any sense. He should be doing, I think, at least like 10% less at close range. He should not be able to two-shot a Shelly. Like, that is insane to me that he can do that. So he really needs a damage nerf. Also, I think he needs, on top of that, a reload speed nerf. I would definitely give him another nerf on top of a damage nerf. He's still going to be viable. He's still going to be an assassin that can completely destroy people with his invisibility. But he shouldn't be so strong that it just doesn't matter like how good you are with Leon. You can just completely destroy people with auto aim so easily. Give him a little bit more skill. Give him something else. Make it a little bit more difficult to not just destroy people in the blink of an eye where they have like no reaction time. If you decrease the damage, they can survive a little bit longer, can counter him a little bit more. Also decrease that reload speed. Every single shot counts that much more. That can't finish people off even quicker than. I think it would be really important for Leon to get a nerf. Let me know what balance changes you would love to see down below. That's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you later.